Narcissistic abuse victims did not voluntarily change themselves. They just lost their sense of identity, and you're about to find out why. Narcissistic abuse slowly erases your individuality by making you doubt your thoughts until you become a version of yourself that feels unfamiliar. Today, we'll talk about the 9 reasons why narcissistic abuse victims lose their sense of identity. Are you ready for number 1? Constant criticism. Narcissists don't just criticize what you do. They attack who you are. They mock your dreams, dismiss your interests, and make you question every decision. Over time, you start doubting yourself and losing trust in your thoughts and abilities. Dr. Ramani Durvasula explains that constant invalidation erodes self-trust, which is exactly what narcissists want. Control over your self-perception. Eventually, you stop defending yourself, abandon your passions, and shrink yourself down, hoping to be enough for them. But the truth is, nothing will ever be enough, because the problem was never you. As therapist Shannon Thomas puts it, healing isn't about changing who you are, but unlearning who the narcissist made you believe you were. Let's talk about number 2. Reward and punishment cycles. Have you ever felt like you had to earn someone's love? Like one wrong move could make it disappear? That's the trap of narcissistic abuse. They don't just control you with insults, they use affection as a weapon. When you agree with them, follow their rules, or shrink yourself to fit their expectations, they reward you, maybe with kind words, temporary affection, or even just the absence of criticism. But the moment you assert yourself, like expressing a different opinion, setting a boundary, or choosing something for yourself, the warmth vanishes. Suddenly they're cold, distant, or even angry. Over time, your brain starts making the connection. If I want love, I have to obey. If I want peace, I can't be myself. Eventually, even when the narcissist isn't around, you still hesitate to make choices for yourself. Psychologist Dr. Lindsay Gibson, author of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, puts it perfectly. When love is used as a bargaining chip, people learn to trade authenticity for approval. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't disappear when you step into your power. The right people won't punish you for being yourself, they'll celebrate it. And that's how you reclaim your identity. Let's move on to number 3. Internalized shame. What if every flaw you believed about yourself wasn't yours? That's the twisted magic trick of a narcissist. They project their insecurities onto you, calling you too sensitive when they can't handle criticism, or selfish when you set boundaries. Over time, you internalize their words, blaming yourself instead of questioning them. Dr. Carol S. Dweck explains that repeated labels become self-fulfilling prophecies, making you see yourself as broken. To escape the shame, you start erasing parts of yourself, silencing your voice, abandoning dreams, and shrinking to fit their version of you. But the truth is, their shame was never yours to carry. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about unlearning their lies and reclaiming who you were before the shame took over. Now let's continue to number 4. Emotional exhaustion. How can you figure out who you are when you're too exhausted to even think? That's the brutal reality of narcissistic abuse. It doesn't just hurt you emotionally. It wears you down until you have nothing left to give, even to yourself. When you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid the next outburst or manipulation, your brain stays stuck in survival mode. Instead of focusing on your dreams, goals, or self-discovery, all your energy goes into just making it through the day. Over time, this mental exhaustion steals your ability to reflect on who you are or what you want. Your entire identity revolves around keeping the peace, avoiding conflict, and managing the narcissist's emotions. Psychologist Dr. Sherry Campbell, author of But It's Your Family, puts it best. Emotional exhaustion strips away self-awareness, making you a stranger to yourself. But here's the truth. Your identity isn't gone, just buried under years of survival mode. Once you finally step out of the exhaustion and start reclaiming your energy, you'll realize that you still exist underneath all the fatigue. You just need time and space to find yourself again. You shouldn't miss number 5. Love bombing and devaluation. How do you go from feeling like the center of someone's world to feeling like you don't even exist? That's the cruel trick of narcissistic abuse. At first, they shower you with love, attention, and grand promises, making you believe you finally found someone who truly sees you. But once you're hooked, the mask slips, and the admiration turns into indifference and criticism. Dr. Rhonda Freeman explains that the emotional high of love bombing creates a powerful bond, making the later devaluation feel even more devastating. You start doubting yourself, clinging to the person you used to be, hoping you can bring back the love they once gave. But as Dr. Ramani Durvasula explains, narcissists follow a cycle of idealize, devalue, discard. The love was never real, just a tool for control. The truth is, your worth never changed. They just made you forget it. And now it's time to remember. Are you still up for number 6? Forced self-doubt. Dr. George Simon, author of In Sheep's Clothing, explains that manipulators sow self-doubt to gain control, making their victims unsure of their judgment. And once that uncertainty takes root, it's easy for them to take over. With narcissists, your instincts aren't safe. When you express doubt about something they did, they act like you're imagining things. This slow, relentless gaslighting makes you question your mind. Before you know it, you're not just doubting their words, you're doubting yourself. You hesitate before speaking because you're afraid of being wrong. You second-guess choices you once made confidently. Eventually, you stop making decisions and just wait for their approval instead. This dependency is exactly what they want. When you no longer trust yourself, you start relying on them to tell you what's right. And that's how your identity fades. As Dr. Harriet Breaker, author of Who's Pulling Your Strings, puts it, the more you defer to a manipulator's reality, the more disconnected you become from your own. But here's what they don't tell you. Your instincts were never wrong. You were just trained to ignore them. The moment you start trusting yourself again, you take back the power they stole. Let's keep it moving to number 7. Mirroring and absorption. When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to? If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, that question might be hard to answer. At first, it happens subtly, but over time, you stop voicing your own opinions because they dismiss them. You adjust your personality to match theirs because it's easier than dealing with their criticism. Little by little, their identity becomes your identity. Psychologist Dr. Craig Malkin, author of Rethinking Narcissism, explains that narcissists don't form deep connections. They absorb people into their world to reinforce their own image. And before you know it, you've become a reflection of them instead of an individual. The more you mold yourself to fit their needs, the easier you are to control. This is why breaking free can feel so disorienting, because you're not just walking away from them. You're trying to remember who you were before they took over. As trauma expert Dr. Janina Fisher puts it, survivors of psychological abuse often struggle to reclaim their identity because their sense of self was systematically erased. But here's the truth. Your real self never disappeared. It was just buried under their influence. And with time, healing, and self-exploration, you can rediscover yourself again. Here comes number 8. Fear of rejection. Narcissistic abuse makes being yourself feel like a risk instead of a right. Every attempt at independence is met with rage, silence, or sabotage, conditioning you to associate authenticity with punishment. Over time, you stop pushing back because the cost, losing friendships, opportunities, or even your confidence, feels too high. Dr. Craig Malkin explains that narcissists break down independence to reshape victims into versions that serve their needs. Eventually, you believe staying small and compliant is the only way to avoid pain. Even after the relationship ends, the fear of rejection lingers, making you question if anyone will accept the real you. But the truth is, the right people won't punish you for being yourself. They'll embrace you, and real connection comes from being unapologetically you. Finally, we're down to number 9. Unrealistic expectations. With narcissists, no matter what you do, it's never enough because the goalpost is always moving. At first, they make it seem like they just want the best for you, pushing you to be better or try harder. But no matter how much you change, improve, or sacrifice, you're never measuring up. You get criticized for not doing things perfectly, but when you do succeed, they either downplay it or find a new flaw to pick apart. This isn't about helping you grow, it's about making sure you always feel inadequate. Dr. Carol McBride, author of Will I Ever Be Good Enough, explains that narcissists create impossible expectations to keep their victims in a cycle of self-doubt and dependence. And that's exactly what happens. You start believing that your worth is tied to their approval that never truly comes. Dr. Nina Brown, author of Children of the Self-Absorbed, explains that when you live under unrealistic expectations, you lose sight of who you are in the constant struggle to be who they want you to be. And that's the real tragedy of narcissistic abuse. It doesn't just make you feel like a failure. It disconnects you from the person you were meant to be. But here's the good news. Once you stop chasing their impossible standards, you can finally start discovering your own. Losing your sense of identity after narcissistic abuse isn't just some dramatic idea. It's a real and painful experience. When someone constantly tears you down and twists your reality, you start feeling like a stranger to yourself. But the good news is, you can rebuild. It won't be easy, but piece by piece you'll remember who you were before they tried to rewrite your story. The key is to start listening to your voice again. The narcissist may have tried to erase you, but they don't get the final say. You do. And as you step away from their shadow, you'll realize you were never truly lost, just buried under their lies.